All right. All right, I'll call it to order the August the 10th Kernersville Planning Board meeting. Now, the first order of business is to get the staff to talk about the format for the remote meeting. Jeff, if you will take over.
Yes, thank you, Margaret. The process tonight is being broadcast on YouTube. Anybody who wishes can call in, provide public comments. Adam Hutchins, our IT director, will take the calls. If it's busy, continue to keep calling until you have access. The chairwoman, Margaret Burks, will do a roll call for each agenda item to allow for the board of aldermen, allow for the planning board members to make their votes known. So I'll turn it back to you, Margaret, for the board roll call.
Okay, right. Joseph Orenstein.
Present.
Diane Byers.
Present.
Tom McDaniel.
Present.
Steve Hutchins.
Present.
Lou Ann Davis. Is Lou Ann here?
She is not present.
Okay. Nathan Myers.
Present.
Chris Oakman.
Present.
James Frattenberg.
I'm here.
Good.
And Lou Ann has just arrived. Lou Ann, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, thank you. The next item is for the approval of last month's minutes. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion.
Steve Hutchins.
I assume that was a motion and second, right?
Yes, motion by Steve, second by Chris.
Okay. When I call your name, say yes or no or approval of the minutes. Joseph Orenstein.
Yes.
Diane Byers.
Yes.
Tom McDaniels.
Yes.
Steve Hutchins.
Yes.
Lou Ann Davis.
Yes.
Nathan Myers.
Yes.
Chris Oakman.
Yes.
James Frattenberg.
Yes.
All right. All right, for the approval of the minutes for July the 15th. The previous was for the 13th. This is for the 15th. Do I have a motion for approval for the minutes for July the 15th?
I'll make a motion.
That was Tom.
I'll second.
It was Jim.
Was that a second?
Yes, Jim seconded.
Oh. Okay, all right. When you call your name, say yes or no for approval of the minutes. Joseph Orenstein.
Yes.
Diane Byers.
Yes.
Tom McDaniel.
Yes.
Steve Hutchins.
Yes.
Lou Ann Davis.
Yes.
Nathan Myers.
Yes.
Chris Oakman.
Yes.
James Frattenberg.
Yes.
All right. The next session is a subdivision review. It is Stonehaven Subdivision. Bear Siegel, agent for BSC Holdings Incorporated. And it's for property located in the 9300 block of County Line Road near the eastern terminus of Holler Creek Lane and Chelsea Place Drive, being all of pins C8, 6896, 28, 21, 54, 6896, 28, 0893, and 6896, 19, 7, 3, 30, containing a total of 36.87 plus acres. Petitioner is requesting a 51 lot subdivision with a density of 1.38 lots per acre for property currently zoned RS20. And what we need is a preliminary subdivision recommendations.
Thank you, Margaret. Staff will make a presentation on this preliminary subdivision request.
Yeah,
As it's described, this is for a 51 buildable lots with one reserve lot for septics for lots 14, 25, 26. The purpose of the review, this is an administrative review to determine compliance with the town of Kernersville subdivision ordinance standards. A property owner is allowed to subdivide their property to the minimum lot size as long as they comply with the subdivision ordinance. Any views or opinions that oppose the subdivision ordinance requirements must go through a separate legislative process of proposing an amendment to the language of the subdivision ordinance. This is not a public hearing case, so the planning board can make their recommendation to the Board of Aldermen at tonight's meeting. The existing connectivity is with Chelsea Place, the first section of Chelsea Place, accessed off Colony Line Road, and then Hollow Creek Lane was to the east and to the west. Chelsea Place second phase continued Hollow Creek Lane to Smith Edwards Road. This project tonight of Stonehaven is to the east of Chelsea Place with further continuation of Hollow Creek Lane to the County Line Road. Macy Grove extension traffic pattern. The Chelsea Place neighborhood has expressed concerns that new Macy Grove Road extension to North Main Street, which is estimated to be open this September, will encourage cut-through traffic from vehicles on County Line Road traveling to Macy Grove Road and also Macy Grove up to County Line. The Chelsea Place subdivision street that connects to Macy Grove Road is Hollow Creek Lane. Macy Grove Road intersection with Hollow Creek Lane will be a right in, right out with a U-turn on Macy Grove, just north of the intersection for drivers that need to travel south on Macy Grove Road. NCDOT has expressed that the right in, right out will discourage vehicles from using Chelsea as a cut-through. Further, regarding that traffic pattern, a concern is that drivers on the County Line Road who want to go south on Macy Grove Road will use Chelsea Place or the proposed Stonehaven as a cut-through versus going to the traffic light intersection of North Main Street and County Line Road and the traffic light intersection of North Main Street and Macy Grove Road. Drivers heading north on Macy Grove Road heading to County Line may use Hollow Creek, then Chelsea, or travel through the proposed Stonehaven's neighborhood. Staff feels that when Macy Grove Road opens, Chelsea Place and the proposed Stonehaven neighborhood will experience cut-through traffic. The level of traffic will not be known until 6+ months after the Macy Grove Road is open, which staff feels is a typical period of time when drivers get into a new traffic pattern after a new road is opened. Further in that traffic pattern, if Stonehaven subdivision is connected to the Chelsea Place subdivisions, drivers on County Line Road heading to Macy Grove Road will be given 3 options. Drivers turning into Stonehaven to get to Hollow Creek Lane, then to Macy Grove. The second option would be drivers turn on to Chelsea Place Drive to get to Hollow Creek Lane, then Macy Grove. And the third option, drivers turn onto North Main Street, then Macy Grove Road. So basically, a traffic to the north coming off County Line Road would have those 3 options. Given these three travel options, traffic will have a greater chance to spread out. If Stonehaven is not connected to Chelsea Place neighborhood, leaving only two options, Chelsea Place Drive would have a better chance of attracting additional traffic. Staff continues to recommend Stonehaven connection to Chelsea Place due to the following facts. Chelsea Place subdivision was designed for Hollow Creek Lane to be continued to the property to the east, which is Stonehaven. Secondly, Stonehaven required under state fire code to have two entrances. Thirdly, Stonehaven is required to be connected to Hollow Creek Lane substreet under the town's Unified Development Ordinance. Fourthly, connecting Stonehaven to Hollow Creek Lane will enhance the distribution of traffic between County Line Road and Macy Grove Road, thus reducing traffic on Chelsea Place Drive. A revised stormwater and drainage plan was submitted and forwarded to the planning board agenda, and planning board members and the public has access through our website. The developer, to address some of the concerns of stormwater from the adjacent property owners in Chelsea Place, are proposing 3 dry stormwater retention ponds. Dry stormwater retention ponds are basically a dike or pond that water fills up during storm events and is slowly released. And after the storm, it becomes dry again. That's what they're called, dry retention ponds. The site is being developed using low density option with a total site build out estimated to be 14.67%. As described in the staff memo to the planning board, which is on the town's website under the planning board agenda, the applicant's engineer compared to current site conditions, if you've been out there, is basically pretty much a bare soil with weeds. They're no longer growing crops on it. So it's a pretty hard surface with scattered weeds. And the proposed site conditions along with the dry detention and determine the stormwater will have a reduced peak runoff leaving the site for most storm events. So basically, in summary, the ponds will hold back some water during a storm event. When the property is developed with grass and homes and driveways and so forth, it'll have similar runoff you have now with that bare soil with just scattered weeds throughout the site. A professional engineer sent a letter representing the property owner at 1781 Chelsea Place Drive. Chelsea Place 1781 Chelsea Place Drive is at the end of Chelsea Place, off the cul-de-sac. It's important to note that regarding the stormwater runoff that it referred to, the proposed dry detention ponds are not a requirement of the subdivision ordinance. The applicant has volunteered to install the dry ponds to reduce the rate of runoff. Since the ponds are not a requirement of the town ordinance, there are no town standards that apply. So basically, the developer in this case is going above and beyond our ordinance to address some of the stormwater concerns of the adjacent property owners. Also in the letter from the geologist talked about on-site wastewater disposal. The letter was from Mr. Nelson. As Mr. Nelson stated in his letter, the county soil scientist, which is Forsyth County Health Department, will do an on-site examination of the soils. The Forsyth County Health Department will review proposed septic systems once the home builder applies for a septic approval. It's important to note the town of Kernersville has no jurisdiction in septic system review. The geologist letter and the developer soil scientist letter that was just submitted around 4:30 and posted on the website and sent out to the planning board, responding to the geologist letter, should go to the Forsyth County Health Department. So all matters regarding the septic and related soils and the concerns would be forwarded to the Forsyth County Health Department by the applicant or adjacent property owners, and the stormwater runoff being proposed with enhancements from the developer standards above and beyond the town standards. Staff recommendation: based on the findings of fact, the proposed preliminary subdivision conforms to the town of Kernersville subdivision ordinance. Staff recommends approval with conditions as written in the staff report, along with the new site plan with the 3 dry stormwater detention ponds. Staff would be happy to answer any questions you may have.
I've got a question or two. This is Joe Ornstein, if I may. On the matter of the, I guess, the responsibility of this board in terms of making a determination of regarding the subdivision approval, do we have any kind of authority or jurisdiction or review on stormwater issues, or is it specifically with respect to dry retention ponds?
Under the subdivision ordinance, as we have narrative in the staff report, the developer is required to show how the site will drain, which they did on their first site plan they submitted. After some concerns, the developer came back with that second phase and proposed the dry detention ponds, and certainly staff supports the dry detention ponds. Any type of dry detention ponds will help offset some of the rate of runoff. You don't see very many around town. I participated at Grace Presbyterian Church off Hopkins Road, worked with Doug Jewell, an engineer who also went to Grace. We used a dry pond at that site because it was adjacent to a residential neighborhood. They can be quite effective because they're holding back water during a storm event. So staff is recommending that we accept the dry detention ponds, which could be better than not accepting.
So would it be correct to say that were the dry detention ponds not part of the plan? So in other words, the developer didn't make that revision. Would the staff still have recommended the stormwater condition on the property without the dry detention ponds?
Yes, because basically under our ordinance and under case law in North Carolina, the engineer for developer has to design the drainage so it follows the natural course that is present pre-development. So they can't divert stormwater from one area to another area. In this case, the developer followed the existing drainage pattern that the field currently runs off at. So yes, we did recommend approval without the dry ponds because the engineer did have proper design drawings to have drainage going into the natural drainage courses.
Okay, I've got a couple more questions and then I'll yield to the floor. I suspect we're going to hear opinions from people here. And Jeff, I respect your kind of opinion on it. So in terms of the current water situation, stormwater situation out there, is it your opinion that the ponds plus the development will be a better stormwater situation than exists currently out there, or at least neutral?
Yes, I've been out to the site with our town engineer, and when you walk that current field, it's pretty much a hard surface, especially when it's going to be dry. It's limited absorption most likely, but the drainage is going to the existing areas. You've seen videos of that water coming off the field. I'm sure there's been some videos sent out from the woman at the end of Chelsea Place, and there's a large amount of water coming off those fields. And also the interesting thing, not only that, there's a pretty big drop off, so it makes pretty dramatic water course. So the Chelsea Place adjacent property owners, of course, have been experiencing this type of runoff for quite some time. I feel that's probably why the developer, I'm sure the developer will speak tonight, that's why the developer went back and revised his plan to help reduce the rate of runoff during storm events. And also these are around half-acre lots, and at 14% coverage or 15% coverage, you're going to have a lot of lawn area, which is a better condition for absorbing water and slowing water runoff. So I think the engineer for the developer will speak to it, but it's the current situation is there. And I think the developer has done a good job on trying to maintain the current condition, if not try to make it better.
Okay, one more question, and this bears on the traffic issue. So as it stands today, if this subdivision were not approved, my understanding is that there basically would be one existing cut through Chelsea Place Drive to Hollow Creek Lane and then on to Macy Grove. If this subdivision is approved, it will add an additional cut through avenue, which theoretically would lessen or distribute better the amount of traffic on either one of those two roads coming through the neighborhood. So we're basically going from one avenue of cut through to two avenues of cut through. Am I understanding that correctly, or am I misunderstanding that?
Correct. It gives you that second option. Of course, that third option, some people will still travel to North Main Street, but as the maps illustrate, by doing the connection, yes, you are adding an additional option to help distribute traffic if we start seeing more cut through from County Line Road down to Smith Edwards or future Macy Grove.
Right. So the preference is obviously that the traffic follow the planned pattern, but assuming that you're going to have people cut through, essentially it will alleviate some of the cut through traffic on Chelsea Place Drive and distribute that on the new road that's part of the subdivision, which while certainly will help limit the amount of cut through traffic. That's the thought.
Correct. Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you. Nothing further. Thank you for indulging me.
Are there any other board members that have any questions or comments?
Yes, I do, Margaret.
Huh?
This is Nathan.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes. First of all, Chris, thank you very much for the way that you asked questions about the traffic flow. I have a question, Jeff, about there was something in the latest letter that we got about it looks like something like they might put the speed bumps in there if speeding is the issue. What would it take? Am I right? And what would it take for that to be put in?
Yeah. NCDOT, these are and all streets in Stonehaven will be NCDOT streets. So Chelsea Place, Hollow Creek Lane, and the Stonehaven roads will all be NCDOT streets. NCDOT does have a policy that allows for a neighborhood to petition for traffic calming to take place. A traffic study is required to see if traffic calming or speed bumps are warranted. And so most likely after Macy Grove is opened up sometime this fall, Chelsea Place will have an option to undertake a traffic study to work with NCDOT to see if traffic calming devices such as speed humps or bumps can be installed.
All right, thank you. And the next question is, you have one point where everybody that you're cutting through would come through. And that's Chelsea Place, or the Hollow Road, and the other road coming off the development that's being petitioned. Now, what's the possibility of a roundabout being put in there to, again, work at slowing traffic down? Because at the other meeting that we had, the neighborhood was very concerned about speed. And, you can put the speed sign in, you can put a stop sign in, but the turnabouts do a very good job slowing people down.
Yeah, all those decisions would need to be made by NCDOT after a traffic study was completed.
Okay, so again, that'd be something that the neighborhood could petition if they're interested in it?
Yes, the neighborhood would work with NCDOT.
All right. That's all my questions.
Does any other board member have a question?
I have
I
a
do,
quick,
Margaret. This is Chris Oakman.
Chris
I've
Oakman.
just got a couple real quick ones.
Okay.
Does the, and I don't think it does, but I just wanted to verify, this subdivision does not have sidewalks and curbs. Is that a correct statement?
Correct. This project is outside of the area that town of Kernersville can provide sewer. And so I've been here 23 years. This is the first subdivision that I've reviewed that will not have public sewer because you can't get to it. So, which means then that it'll be located in the county. This is in our extraterritorial jurisdiction, our ETJ. So we're doing the subdivision review, but the streets will be NCDOT streets. There'll be ribbon pavement, which means no curb and gutter or sidewalks. NCDOT does not maintain sidewalks. So these would be just ribbon pavement streets. And if the built to NCDOT standards would be turned over to NCDOT for maintenance.
All right. Is there any risk? I see that this is, there's a 8-foot wide paved path for access to the greenway at the end of that cul-de-sac. Is there any risk of mountain bikers parking there to access the mountain bike park? Is that a concern for the neighborhood or?
Yeah, we met with the Park and Rec director for the town of Kernersville and also one of the lead volunteers for the mountain bike park. And those are going to be some of their consideration for proper signage. It's primarily been encouraged to be a pedestrian access and a bike access. But NCDOT will make the final determination on street parking or off-street parking. But the good thing about this project is the larger lots, of course, you have big driveway, there's limited parking on the streets. But yes, that was a concern. The park wanted to discourage people from using this as a parking area. But it'll be a public street, but that'll be up to NCDOT and the future neighborhood association if they come up with that type of issue.
All right, and then, my only other thing was, well, I had two other questions. One, the video that we were sent from 1781 Chelsea Place Drive, I think I see on the Google map where that river is. Is that dry? Like, if it hasn't rained in 4 or 5 days, is that basically a dry river and that's just runoff coming from the fields?
What you're seeing is, yeah, you're seeing a cascading runoff because it's coming off that hard surface field and then dropping off. So making that cascaded looking storm, cascading looking storm event.
And that's going to turn into more of a soft surface with landscape grasses and that kind of stuff for each of these homes. So it'll probably absorb more water than it does just a big empty field is my assumption. I'm not an engineer. So. All right, and then my only other comment is I get the cut through part because Jim Friedenberg cuts through my neighborhood every single day. But not anymore because he's the Y is closed. But so I get that and I understand that. And I get that that's an issue for people, but I turn around and I cut through the 4 neighborhoods between here and Main Street, my house as well. So I completely understand that and how neighborhoods are connected and why they're connected and that kind of stuff. So that was just a comment. Thank you.
Is there another board member that wishes to speak?
I have a quick question, maybe just clarification, please. Steve Hutchins.
Go ahead.
If you're using the Hollow Creek Lane as a cut through, you're going to come up to Macy Grove Road to go, whether it be eastbound, you'll have to make a right out, go down to the light, make a U-turn to go back eastbound on Macy Grove Road. Is that correct?
No, there's a built-in U-turn between Hollow Creek Lane and North Main Street. So in between the intersection of Holly Creek Lane and North Main Street, there's a U-turn built. So it's like a mid-block U-turn.
So that's to deter basically the cut through. It makes it more difficult to make that cut through because you have to make more turns, correct?
Yeah, yes, but it also makes, it's a safer intersection, doing those, it's called a super street, where you have those mid-block U-turns versus a full intersection where you're crossing the lanes. But yes, it would also discourage some people, from taking Hollow Creek Lane. And that NCDOT, in an earlier email that I was a part of, that was their statement that they felt with that U-turn, it would discourage some cut through traffic.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other board members wishing to ask questions?
Margaret, this is Diane Byers.
All right, go ahead.
And Jeff, can you go over just a little bit how their water sewer system is going to be set up since it's not on county, city water and sewer?
The subdivision will have a public water, and their wastewater disposal will be septic fields that go through the Forsyth County Health Department. Chelsea Place, which is similar to Chelsea Place, that has septic system, and some have wells. And I believe some also have, there's some public water in Chelsea Place, but other ones have wells with septic tanks.
So will each house have a septic tank?
Yes, 3 of the lots will share one large field area, which is not uncommon. So on the far end of the proposed development, there is one vacant lot that will have 3 septic fields. Most likely those lots needed some, due to topography or certain type of soil types, needed a different location for their septic fields.
And Forsyth County Health Department is in charge of making sure that's properly
Yes.
put together?
Yeah, at the time of the building permit, they applied for Forsyth County Health Department approval. Basically, soil examination, perk test to make sure there's adequate area and adequate soils and adequate backup area in the future for the septic system and its septic field.
And can you go over one more time exactly what we're voting on tonight?
This is an administrative review process. In the staff report, we take the subdivision ordinance standards, and we have findings under each standard. Staff found that all ordinance standards have been found to be applied with in the proposal. In addition, they've gone above and beyond in the stormwater section with the dry ponds. So tonight the planning board is making a recommendation to the Board of Aldermen whether or not the proposal meets the subdivision ordinance standards.
Thank you.
I want to ask, why are we going to sewer not having public water and public sewer lines?
Yeah, so it will be public water. The way this area just northeast of Kernersville, how it lies, there's just no practical way to get sewer to this site. The area drains into Triad Park, and there's sewer down in the bottom of Triad Park, but it's a long way, and so it's not financially feasible to run public sewer to this site. Also, like Chelsea Place subdivision, it was not practical back in the 80s to have sewer to that site also due to that topography.
You say in the 80s?
Chelsea Place.
In the 80s?
Chelsea Place was approved back in the 80s.
And we haven't made any progress since the 80s.
Not in that basin. It's just, there's a ridge line. Smith Edwards is a ridge line. So everything on the north side of Smith Edwards drains away from our sewer outfalls. So we have not been able to come up with a financial plan or feasibility to serve this area.
Well, you know, in the long run, the taxpayer's going to be paying the burden down the road. But anyway, that's the way it is. Is there another board member that has any comments or questions? If not, we will go to the public. But I want them to know that this is not a public hearing, but we'll take public comments. And right now we'll take the ones that are in favor of. Is there anybody wanting to speak in favor of this situation?
Amanda Williams is on the line.
Yeah, Chuck, do you want to go ahead first?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Good evening. My name is Chuck Truby. My offices are at 4400 Tyning Street in High Point, North Carolina. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of North Carolina, Virginia, South Carolina, and I've been designing projects in the Triad for 35 years. And just a little brief history. We started out on this project thinking that we really didn't need to do any additional runoff controls because we felt very strongly at the time, based on the existing soil conditions, that just by doing the large yards and the limited impervious area that we have, we felt that we would get better infiltration into the ground without having to do any stormwater controls. But after seeing the video of the Miss DeVries, and then I had another neighbor call me concerned about runoff. I talked to the developer and I said, you know what, we really need to try to put in some sort of device to control the runoff. And I think we're actually taking the runoff. Normally you would discharge the runoff from the site at a pre-development rate, equal pre-development rate. I believe with these basins that we're putting in, we're actually going to cut the pre-development rate in half. So we're going way over and above, what I believe is really required. But, we wanted to make sure we didn't have any mad neighbors. And so we took these additional steps to do this. That video that you see during normal periods, if you went out there today, if it's not raining there, it's just dry. There's not really a defined ditch, and it's just dry. And then I guess when you get heavy rains, the water's just coming off that field so fast that it was creating that problem. So with the controls that we're proposing and with the new yards and the limited impervious area, we're going to make this better than what they have today. And that's really all I have to add, except if you have any questions you want to ask me about what we're doing. But we will make it better.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor of?
Yes, this is Barry Siegel. We are the developer of this subdivision, and I would just like to clarify one thing. The staff report does in fact talk about 52 lots and the offsite septic fields. So there are in fact 52 lots. If you look at the site plan, one of the lots are kind of numbered out of sequence, so therefore I can understand why one might think it would be 51, but there are in fact 52 lots shown. And then there were some comments by the geologist, and he raised some questions about the septic. And we reached out to Jim Beeson at Piedmont Environmental. Jim is, I guess, considered the authority. He is a licensed soil scientist He is considered an authority both in Guilford County and Forsyth County. As a matter of fact, he does most of the environmental studies related to septic, and I think his letter speaks for itself. So, you know, if you have any questions on that, I might be able to try to answer any questions that you have on his letter. But I think he does very clearly state that, you know, some of the concerns that were expressed are things that, of course, the Forsyth County Health Department will, of course, do their appropriate studies on, as well as Mr. Beeson has already done. So I'd be happy to answer any questions if I could.
Do any of the board members have any questions to ask him? Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor of? All right. Do we have anybody wishing to speak against the project?
Yes, on behalf of the Chelsea Place subdivision, my name is David Landfair, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes, David.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So again, I appreciate this. So as I said, the residents of Chelsea Place have asked me to speak on their behalf. I do live here in the Chelsea Place subdivision and have for the last 27 years. As a residents living within the Kernersville ETJ, we see the responsibilities of the planning board and the planning department, ultimately the board of aldermen, to include ensuring the commercial and residential development of the future needs, and then also the safety, health, and well-being of the residents now and in the future during the expansion and development. So there's three main issues and concerns that we have in regards to the situation that we have here with the proposed Stonehaven development, and ultimately Macy Grove Road as a part of that as well. The biggest issue is from a safety perspective, and Jeff went through and talked about the traffic patterns that are there. A couple of thoughts in looking at that. The issue that we have from being a cut-through neighborhood is that this subdivision, Chelsea Place Drive and Hollow Creek Lane, are not designed for an increased volume of traffic. In one of the comments that the city town has put in the review comments, they'd stated that there would be approximately 400 plus cars added to the day's traffic. Hollow Creek Lane is not designed for that kind of traffic, in our opinion. If you've driven the neighborhood, it's a fairly narrow road. It's 20 feet wide. It's steep on both ends. And then also it has a very sharp curve, about 40 degrees at the bottom of the hill. We've already had at least 2 single car accidents over the years in recent history in this area. And there's been a number of other accidents that have averted. My personal experience is that I've had to go into the grassy shoulder a number of times when oncoming cars have cut the corner, not being able to see me coming down the hill because of the trees. They've gone over what would be a line if there was a line, and forced me off the road to avert a head-on collision. With the kind of increase of traffic that we're talking about, even if it's, from Stonehaven itself, is that there will be such a increase that it's not really going to be an if, it's going to be a when and how often that we could have serious accidents on Hollow Creek Lane. So that is a very big concern for us that we have. We have a lot of children now in our subdivision, at least almost 20 children in this area. Currently, we have a lot of adults that go out walking during the day and the evening, and children on bicycles. With the kind of increase in traffic that we're talking about, it's really going to take away from the safety of the neighborhood itself. As far as the traffic flow coming off of Macy Grove Road, when people are going home, they are not going to go to Main Street. They are going to turn simply right into the neighborhood and go straight either into Stonehaven, or they're going to turn left at Chelsea Place, cut over to County Line, and then turn right and proceed on their way. They will not waste the time of going to Main Street and going through 2 stoplights in order to get home. It's not what I would do. Additionally, when people are leaving their subdivisions or coming down County Line Road on their way to work in the morning, in a conversation with Jeff, Mr. Hatley, he had commented that the GPSs would actually route people through our subdivision. It's probably right, but that doesn't make it right. And residential areas like this are not made to be cut through departments or cut through neighborhoods, going from one fairly significant road, being County Line, to a very major street now in Macy Grove Road Extension. That's a divided 4-lane highway. So people coming off 40 or Salem Parkway now are doing 60 plus. They're going to be, in theory, going 45 plus miles an hour on Macy Grove. My guess is the Kernersville police will need to be there to ensure that people don't keep their heavy foot going 60. But then coming into our subdivision, it's 25 miles an hour. And it's going to be very difficult for people going down the hills and that type of thing to be able to maintain the speed that they have. Going to work, leaving the subdivisions, same scenario except in reverse. Now, Jeff had pointed out in the drawing that people could potentially cut through Stonehaven and on Chelsea Place Drive, but the problem is there's still, both of those routes are still putting you on Hollow Creek Lane. That's the bottleneck. That's the most unsafe road in this area. So it does not make sense to route traffic onto this particular road. One of the engineers that we talked to unofficially really made a comment that he was surprised that that road was accepted back when it was built and designed, back in the 80s. The fact of it, in his opinion, is that it would not meet the DOT standards today for a subdivision. And we're getting that checked out now. We just recently had that comment. So it's simply not a safe road. There's no curbs, no sidewalks, no street lights, just a little weak street light at the bottom of the hill. So, we have that as a situation. Additionally, when we look at this, we would ask the planning board and the planning department to help us negotiate with the DOT sooner than later. I understand the 6 months wait and that type of thing, but the situation is that before the COVID scenario, we had a lot of issues with traffic in the neighborhood. Now with the Macy Grove Road Extension Project, people will be cutting through here on a very regular basis versus going to Main Street. It's just, again, as I said earlier, it's what I would do. So it's going to be less hassles going into left turning lanes, waiting for the light to turn green 2 times in order to get on the Macy Grove Road. It's just simply not an issue. Additionally, from a safety perspective, in the Kernersville UDO, it states, and I quote, "In exceptional cases, the physical connection of streets may not be required upon specific findings of the fact by the Board of Aldermen that 1, a specific safety issue or issues of concern exists that cannot be rectified, abated, or eliminated, and then number 2, the magnitude of the specific safety issue of concern outweighs the general policy and preference of street connectivity." Ultimately, we still ask that Hollow Creek Lane not be connected into Stonehaven. We realize that, it's a county ordinance to have 2 entrances. We fully agree. We understand the safety requirements of that. That's not, but every situation is not simply black and white. This is, going to be a lot more traffic coming through here as a cut through. Back when Hollow Creek was designed, yes, there was the plans in place for some form of a thoroughfare like Macy Grove Road extension to be there, but I'm sure it was not going to be a 4-lane divided road. That just does not make sense. So it was never designed, A, as a cut through, and B, to be attached to that busy of a road. So these are issues that we have. Further, you know, if it is needed to have that second entrance into Stonehaven from a safety perspective, if a second entrance cannot be put into the county line road, then consider putting in a Yelp gate at the division line between Stonehaven and Chelsea Place. Again, we understand that DOT would not approve that, but if we have the support of the planning department and the planning board and the board of ultimately, that would definitely help with that case. Moving on into the other 2 points is from a water runoff perspective. First of all, we appreciate what Barry Siegel and his company have done so far from a dry retention pond or detention pond perspective. We really appreciate that. We are just asking that we've had an engineer look at that. They've challenged some of the data. We just got another response letter in response to Mr. Truby's letter. And so, you know, basically we just want that really re-verified. As you saw in the videos, the most recent one being by Didi DeVries from just this past Thursday, it looks like a mountain stream up in Asheville, as opposed to, you know, something around here. A number of our residents here, including Didi and her late husband, as well as several others, have spent thousands and thousands of dollars to try and contain and repair water coming off of this area. So we appreciate what's being done. We just ask that the planning department continue to help make sure that everything is being done here to abate the storm water being able to come off of here, and to make sure that we do not have any more erosion and issues like what are pictured in several of the videos that we've had. Lastly, in regards to the septic fields, you know, the property of Stonehaven is uphill from us, if you will. And so, you know, as the adage say, things go downhill. And so all the homes within Chelsea Place have septic fields. All the homes in Chelsea Place have wells. There are, I believe, 7 homes that about 15 years ago had the opportunity to sign up and connect into water, that public water, if you will, on the end county line road end of Chelsea Place. But those are the only ones. The rest of the homes in all of Chelsea Place are on well systems. A number of the homes, again, keep in mind, all the lots in Chelsea Place are typically 1 acre to 2 acres in size. And so from a septic perspective, we've had a number of failures with septic systems within Chelsea Place. So if we've had those issues, it stands to reason that, you know, within not a long period of time, that homes within the proposed subdivision of Stonehaven are going to have the same issues. We are concerned about the number of homes that are in that particular subdivision, that many septic fields that are in there. So you have 20 homes that are, you know, within that 20 to 21,000 square feet lot requirements. That's barely meeting the minimum space requirements that are there. There's 3 lots where the soil is not such that they will be able to support septic systems. And as was pointed out, they'll be going to a common system, which according to the engineer that we had that reviewed it, is going to be barely able to support those 3 systems. Additionally, if and had real questions about 3 units being able to go on there. If those septics, any one of those septics from the 3 homes that cannot be supported fail, there will be runoff. And that runoff will not only go onto Dee Dee DeVry's property, but it'll also go into the town of Kernersville's mountain bike park. So there's, issues that you can have there. They've got to really make sure that the systems stay good and in good working order. So in conclusion, the residents of Chelsea Place are definitely not anti-development. With the onset of Macy Grove Road, we know that development is coming. And again, we appreciate what Barry Siegel and his company have done. They've met with us, they've considered some of the issues that we have and have addressed them, and we appreciate that much. We just found out recently that the property at County Line Road and Chelsea Place on the other side of the street, the north side of the street, that property has just recently gone under contract. And as such, again, another development will be coming in place. What we're asking here is that things are considered, that knowing that this whole area is, now that Macy Grove is almost done, this whole area is going to be exploding with development and growth. Now is the time to make sure that we are, you as the planning board and planning department are making sure things are being designed properly from a safety, health, and our well-being perspective, we as residents of this fabulous area of Kernersville. So with that, we appreciate your time. Do you have any questions that we might be able to answer?
All right, thank you. Does any board member have any questions? I think he covered every area.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there someone else that wishes to speak against them?
Yes.
Okay.
This is Delia DeVries. I live at 1781 Chelsea Place Drive.
I didn't, excuse me, I didn't get your name.
I'm Dee Dee DeVries.
Okay.
And I live at 1781 Chelsea Place Drive. I'm the woman who has sent those videos. This is actually a call for help from you guys. I've voiced my concerns about this proposed development, from the traffic safety to the potential septic problems. But mostly it's been the stormwater runoff. And what you have seen is not an unusual occurrence in those videos. The last one I sent you was from Thursday evening. The retention ponds or the detention ponds that are now proposed have an 18-inch pipe coming out of that that's going to deliver right to my dry creek bed, which has a 14-inch pipe coming out of it. That means I'm going to get flooding because there's going to be more water. The videos that you saw last Thursday's, the last one I sent you, is when the field has been covered in weeds. Yes, but the other one that I sent you was when it was planted and it was a hay field and it had not been cut. And so it was not an impervious situation. It was a cultivated field. They usually, every year, they planted either hay or soybeans in that field. And it would be okay until we got a couple rains and it got saturated, and then I got the runoff. Personally, with the recent death of my husband and the limitations that I'm finding and the stress with this coronavirus, I find this whole process totally overwhelming. And I would just like for your help to help me protect my property and my neighborhood. And I invite you to come to visit my home so you can appreciate this request.
All right. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else? All right. I need to ask Adam Hutchins if anyone has called in that are in favor of the situation.
None further, ma'am.
No. Are there any calls in against?
None besides what you've already heard, ma'am.
I assume you're saying no.
No calls.
Okay. All right. I'll ask the board members if they are ready to make a motion.
Margaret,
Yes?
this is Luann Davis.
Okay.
So we've heard everybody's comments, we've heard the proposal from the town, their presentation, and yet this lady's still having issues with water. And I guess I'm just concerned about that even before anything's happened to this field, there were issues long before now. I don't know how much of that is our responsibility or the town responsibility or a homeowner responsibility. I don't know the answer to that. And then Mr. Landfair, his comment, there's already been septic failures over in Chelsea Place, and someone spent thousands and thousands of dollars on runoff. Can somebody speak to that just a little bit? I mean, as a homeowner, I have septic. I have to repair mine and pay for that and do all that is required to maintain my septic. Is he saying that there's a problem with water over there that's causing these septic failures? I don't understand that.
Well, I think people do have septic tanks, septic fields, depending on when they were installed and the quality of the installation, issues do arise. That's why now Department of Health requires the primary system in the backup area. And so, and the other thing too is important, you have to maintain your septic tank and your septic fields. You have to make sure that you're protecting your drainage areas. So there are all kinds of variables that damage the septic area and also make it last longer.
All right.
And regarding
a couple of follow-up questions. Good.
Just the follow-up on Luann on the storm drainage. I think we're all aware when we purchase our property, you have to be aware of the situation above stream, below stream. You have to be aware of the traffic patterns, the future traffic patterns. And it's regrettable, Chelsea Place has lived a quiet life kind of in a dead-end area of town, and they're getting hit on two sides now. Primarily, the Macy Grove extension is going to drastically change the area. But I think it's important to note, these are NCDOT streets, 22-foot plus or minus in width. Chris pointed out earlier, his neighborhood is a area traveled by people cutting through, very similar street widths. NCDOT is a part of the Development Review Committee that reviewed this project. They expressed no concerns regarding capacity. Afterwards, they have been approached to study traffic and a potential traffic calming. So, there will be follow-up on that. And certainly the community development staff will work with the residents at NCDOT to assist in that effort. But, throughout the state of North Carolina, throughout Kernersville, throughout Forsyth County, these residential 22-foot street plus or minus have the capacity that are allowed to expand into further areas. So it's just kind of a summary on the stormwater, septic, and road configuration.
Thank you, Jeff.
Just a couple of quick follow-up questions. In terms of our responsibility from a subdivision approval standpoint, do we have any purview or authority to, I guess, put restrictions in place, any kind of considerations in place with respect to the septic systems at all, or is that completely out of our purview?
And who is this speaking?
This is Joe. I'm sorry,
Joe.
Margaret.
Thank you.
Yeah, regarding septic I'm encouraging the geologists who work for the adjacent property owner, the soil scientists who did the study for the developer. They would go directly to the Department of Health, Forsyth Department of Health, at the time when they start going for their permitting. We do not have, to answer your question, Joe, we do not have the jurisdiction to involve ourselves with septic, nor are we, as stated in earlier meetings and past cases, nor can we control or regulate NCDOT streets. Very similar. NCDOT facilities are controlled by NCDOT. Septics are controlled by Forsyth County Health Department.
Okay, and then on the issue that was brought up by the homeowner with respect to the pipe, the wet retention pond, I guess pipe, the outlet pipe. Can you clarify exactly, Jeff, how that works from an engineer standpoint? Is that an outlet pipe that can be modified in size, or is there a standard size? I certainly understand and can hear her concern about if the outlet pipe is bigger than what's there availability wise, it's going to create issues.
Yeah, I mean, clearly now that 14-inch pipe, from the water that I observed on the videos, I'm assuming the 14-inch pipe is above her property or below her property, either place. The amount of water shown in those videos, a 14-inch pipe is not going to handle. The developer proposing the detention devices with an 18-inch outlet, basically you're going to see less water coming through an 18-inch than an open ditch line you are seeing now in those videos. And of course, private property can do what a private property owner can do what they want under site. They can put any type of culvert or any type of structure. They just can't block stormwater flows through their property onto the above properties. So each property owner has water running through, can manage their stormwater, but they cannot stop or back up water onto their adjacent property owners. So in summary, the developer has proposed enhancement to the stormwater rate runoff. And of course, I can't speak to the property owner's concern that the 14-inch pipe sounds like it's a private pipe and not a public facility. So that's somehow an earlier design of that property that was installed.
Okay, and then I guess as a last follow-up question on the road issue, and Mr. Landfair spoke to this, as far as leverage with the DOT to be able to get the DOT to perhaps put in speed bumps or other, impediments to this cut through traffic, would the planning board and its experience with respect, I'm sorry, not the planning board, but the planning department's experience dealing with DOT suggest that declining to approve this subdivision, would it give them any additional leverage with respect to the DOT and getting the DOT to do anything with that road different than they're already ready to do? Or would that be just kind of imaginary?
Yeah, NCDOT requires a traffic study to determine if traffic calming is warranted. And so, they pretty much will stay on that study and warranted. It doesn't matter what was approved or disapproved. I mean, they'll study the facts as presented during the traffic study. I mean, it should be also noted, Stonehaven, if you look at the traffic pattern, if you didn't connect Stonehaven directly to Hollow Creek Lane, I think most of us would agree that people leaving Stonehaven would just go up at County Line Road, take a left in Chelsea Place. I do not see that being prevented. The Stonehaven people wanting to get Macy Grove Road will either go Chelsea Place or they will go, hopefully with this connection, directly to Hollow Creek Lane. So, I think this is a very unique situation. We've looked at many subdivisions over the years. This is one case where connectivity is really being shown as a positive aspect to distribute traffic more evenly across neighborhoods.
Yeah, and I'll just make a follow-up comment to that. I actually grew up in the neighborhood very close by to this, and rode my bike up and down that hill, and I can tell you that is, Mr. Landfair is not wrong in saying that the traffic on that road is going to be a problem, but I do not think that just based on what's before us, the subdivision addition to the subdivision is going to do anything to make that any worse. I think it's a problem, but it's a problem that's going to need to be solved by DOT, not declining a subdivision, which in fact may help spread some of that traffic a little bit, if anything. So, okay, nothing further from me on that. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Is anybody else, any other board members like to make any comments?
Margaret, this is Diane Byers.
All right.
Jeff, I just have one question, and it's very similar to what's already been asked, but David Landfair did mention that there was a possible caveat in the ordinances, something about in the ordinance that if a board member or considers that it is a danger, can you quote that again, what maybe he was talking about? And do we have any option of making any caveat in our motion when we vote on this tonight?
Yeah, in your staff report is that specific language. Staff did study that, and as we presented tonight, Stonehaven connection to Hollow Creek Lane is needed, one, because of enhanced emergency access. Two, it's required in our ordinance that for the connectivity to help distribute traffic, so there's less burden on one street. The negative effect of connecting is minimal compared to the positive aspects of that connectivity. So yes, we looked at what David stated in the ordinance that's in your staff report, and we even looked at different ways to connect to the east, but there's different topography, different constraints, and it's very important to note, as in our presentation, Chelsea Place subdivision was designed and laid out for Hollow Creek Lane to be used as that connectivity because of those positive attributes we described in the presentation tonight.
Okay. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Margaret.
Okay. Are there any other questions from the board members? All right, I would like a motion from one of you board members. And don't all speak at once.
Mark,
I need a motion. Huh?
Margaret,
I don't
this is Chris
want to
Lakeman.
make a motion, Margaret. But,
Yes.
I'm going to probably need help to do that, but I make a motion that we accept the presentation that Jeff brought us tonight on this subdivision, and now we just accept it and go from there.
Margaret, this is Chris Lakeman. I will second that.
I did not hear the first, and I could not understand who it was, and could not understand the motion.
Yeah, Nathan, your mic is off a little bit. If you could repeat your motion, was it a recommendation for approval?
Yes, it was.
It was what?
I made a motion for approval of
And who, and
what
when your,
Jeff is talking about tonight for this project.
and your name?
I am Nathan.
Nathan,
Meyer.
I can't recognize your voice, so you have to bear with me. You are making
understand.
you are making a motion for the approval. Am I correct?
That is correct.
Was there a second?
Yes, Chris Oakman seconds.
Who seconded?
Chris Oakman.
Chris seconded. Is there any further discussion? All right, I'm gonna call for a vote. Joseph Orenstein,
Yes.
Diane Byers,
Yes.
Tom McDaniel,
Yes.
Steve Hutchins,
Yes.
Lou Ann Davis,
Yes.
Nathan Myers,
Yes.
Chris Oakman,
Yes.
James Frattenberg,
Yes.
and I will vote for it. So that is unanimous vote. All right. Thank you very much. Are there any people that wish to make it? Is there anybody in the public that wish to make any comments? Not necessarily about this particular situation, but about anything.
Adam, any calls in?
No calls.
No calls.
Okay. All right. Let's see if our board members have any comments. Joseph Orenstein, do you? It's Orenstein, isn't it?
It is Ornstein, but it's okay.
I know you've been called everything. So anyway, Joe, do you have any comments to make?
No comments, thank you.
Okay. Diane Papyrus.
No comments. Thank you, Margaret.
Yep. Tom McDaniel.
No comments, Margaret. Thank you.
Steve Hutchins.
No comments, Margaret, and thank you for chairing the meeting tonight.
Don't be going to sleep on me.
I didn't have my mic on. I apologize.
Lou Ann Davis.
No comments. Thanks, Margaret.
Nathan Myers.
You did a great job tonight, Margaret. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Oakman.
I just have one question real quick.
All right.
Jeff, you had said, I think in our last meeting about the new LED street lights and how they are supposed to be, light diffused to only shine on the street, that kind of thing. And so anyways, on Timberwood Trail, we had a power pole go out in a storm about a month ago. They came, put up a new pole, and we now have one LED light that is shining bright enough. It's pretty much daylight outside everybody's house at night. I didn't know if Duke was putting in something different than what we were recommending in neighborhoods, or if they just put up whatever they want. It is 10 times brighter than the old street lights that were here.
Yeah, I'll have to follow up with Public Service Department. Duke Energy does control all the street lighting, but I'll follow up with Public Service.
Okay, thank you.
I know we have in the new subdivision on Lake Ridge that has some connection over by Branchwood. The lighting, the LED there seems normal, but it might be that we have one LED with the other orange lights. You probably get a whole different look. So I haven't seen a subdivision where there's orange lights and white lights. So that's I'll follow up with Dora Mulpa at the public
Okay.
service.
Feel free to drive through after dark. You know?
Yeah.
Okay. James Frattenberg, do you have anything to add?
Nope, thanks.
Okay. All right. We'll hear from our good staff now.
Well, I want to appreciate Beth and all her work she did coordinate with Margaret. Margaret, you did an excellent job. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And I think we're getting the hang of these meetings. It's interesting, one comment regarding preliminary subdivision reviews. Most jurisdictions around us and around the state do not take and put the planning board through this agony or the board of aldermen, since it is administrative. A lot of jurisdictions, there are certain ways you can, if the staff makes a decision on a administrative review, it can be appealed. So it's a tough thing on these administrative subdivisions because, you know, there are legitimate concerns on existing conditions, but a subdivision ordinance is really there just for public infrastructure and the planned expansion of that. So, I mean, it is a tough thing to hear. For next month, the next submittal is Monday. And I thought there was a pandemic, but no one told the developers. I think we have like 6 or 7 cases. So we'll see on Monday. Probably only one controversial case, several final development plans and fairly minor stuff, but I regret that we have so many cases in 1 month, but our remote meetings are going well, and I appreciate all the planning board members participating and doing a great job. Thank you. Rochelle, do you have anything?
No, I'm good.
Thank you. Thank you, Margaret. That's it.
All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Steve.
All right. Thank you. Good night.
All right. Good night, everyone.